What's up, everybody? My name's Charlie Savage, and today I'm here for our second ever episode of Outer Rim Radio, joined today by my co host, Ethan Odenthal. And today, what do we have on the agenda?
Oh goodness. Well, in terms of news, we definitely don't have as much as we had for our last episode with that whole slew of 10 or 11 shows, books, comics, everything. This week it's been pretty much more drama, so we're kind of going to go over that, and then we're going to just talk about a little segment we've kind of been having fun with. It'll be Star Wars, the prequels, episodes 1 through 3, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So Charlie, let's get started with that quote unquote news for this week.
Yeah, so the news this week, pretty interesting. It's mostly all drama surrounding a YouTuber and Pablo Hidalgo, who's a Lucasfilm exec. Uh, he basically mocked Star Wars Theory for his emotional response to the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian. He commented on his private account saying emotions are not to be shared. Pablo Hidalgo then reached out to Star Wars Theory, basically just sending an email being like, hey, here's my phone number, call me, just to talk about it. But given the fact he was like, uh, sorry, given the fact that he was basically just subtweeting him repeatedly and had an entire thread, he was like, I'm not going to have this discussion with you because I know your apologies not going to mean anything and is entirely just by PR or HR.
Yeah. My big thing with this that was kind of crazy. There's certain people who are saying, like Berg just said in chat, like how Pablo needs to be fired. And I think there is a level of professionalism that kind of we can make that comment about. I mean, one, he made the comment from his private account, sure, but he did it in a thread where other people could see him. But obviously, Star Wars Theory, he could see, he did that. But the big thing that people are getting mad about is after he removed his comment, he put it as at his header.
Yeah, that's like the
And his reasoning for that, which he has stated, has been is that he he wanted people to be able to see what he said for context. Now, whether we think that's actual for clarity reasons
no,
or is
that's
just some PR, that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, he basically just said emotions are not to be shared. And later on, he kind of said, as an apology, I'll read it what he said verbatim. I wish to clarify that my post that emotions are not to be shared was sarcastic self-mockery and was certainly not intended to be hurtful to anyone, and I'm deeply sorry that it was. As a lifelong fan, I appreciate fans expressing how they feel. It's what being a fan is about.
yeah, I don't know about that one, Chief. I just feel like that doing that and making it your bio is like, it's like whenever Trump said anything about Greta Thunberg and then she like mocked his tweet by just putting it as her bio or whatever. I feel like it's very much in the same vein of just like doubling down. Odie, I didn't even know I had alert box on.
Yeah, I had to fix that real quick.
Hey-o.
It's just PR. I'm totally with you. But you want to kind of get into how Mark Hamill and everyone
Yeah.
kind of flash back at it.
So yeah, Mark Hamill, there's no doubt he's aware of the controversy. He's Luke Skywalker. The whole thing surrounds a reaction to his character coming back. And he said, seeing fans' reaction to Luke's return is something I cherish forever. The anticipation seeing the X-Wing Episode 6 robes, lightsaber, a green lightsaber, a gloved hand and an ungloved hand, the Force choke, and R2 is overwhelming and very moving to me. And that, so, he's definitely aware of that situation, and I think he's just being like, he tweeted out like a compilation of a bunch of YouTubers and streamers all reacting to it, which was really cool. It was a really cool video. And then,
just from a PR perspective, I think that's how you have to react to these things. I think if Lucasfilms is being smart, I mean, Mark Hamill's just a great guy. We've known that for every project he's been on. But just from a PR standpoint, why not embrace the fans' hype and love? And
yeah, there's like
that is crowdsourcing your PR and making advertisement clips out of people's reactions. Gaming companies are already doing this. I don't understand how people aren't grabbing onto that trend and saying we can do this for movies, we can do this for shows.
Yeah. I mean, and it's when it's genuine, I think that's the best thing because that is kind of like you're basically using your platform as like the rights holder, or like like Star Wars, the brand is using that to elevate it with people's genuine reaction. You're just elevating word of mouth rather than trying to put something that doesn't seem like you're not promoting inauthentic things. You're promoting authenticity and the passion that people
Exactly.
have around the brand. So I think it's good in general. And then also Gina Carano basically sided with Star Wars Theory. Where is that? Basically, she just said that emotions are meant to be shared, and that when people have that reaction to Luke coming back, that was really the correct reaction to have. That means you are passionate about it, and that's like what they were going for as creators.
Yeah, Berg raises a good point in chat. It's not like Star Wars Theory is some small time YouTuber, or it's not like he was being disingenuous with his emotions, or just being like, oh, this is so stupid, I hate this. And he's like, these emotions aren't to be shared. No, it was positive, it was happiness. So of
Yeah,
course, like, I totally agree with Gina. Like that's exactly how things should be shared. And from an actor, an actress, a director, especially the writers, I can't imagine how that would feel to be like, oh my gosh, people are crying over what we've written. That take your reward, take your money.
yeah,
I'm
like
done. I
that's the
don't.
purpose of art, right? Is like it is supposed to evoke
Exactly.
emotion. So the idea that going after someone for emotions is, it's ridiculous. So
All right,
yeah.
let's move on to some other sad news before we talk about some fun stuff.
All right. So yeah, popular Star Wars actor Tom Kane, famous for his role as Yoda in Clone Wars, he was left unable to speak after a debilitating stroke, which I didn't know this until I read the uh your write up this morning, and I was very saddened by it because I'm rewatching both Clone Wars and Rebels right now.
Yeah, and he's he's done a lot for Star Wars in terms of voice acting. He's most famous for his role in the Clone Wars. That this was only a couple days ago, so strokes are one of those things where it affects people differently. So hopefully he's able to recover.
Yeah,
Um, but it's it's just always sad, and that's kind of the thing with Star Wars. It's bittersweet. Is it's been such a long running franchise that sometimes people are just gonna have there's gonna be disease, there's gonna be injuries, there's gonna be death, and it's just a sad day. So I hope he gets better, but it's
yeah,
just good to know. Hopefully people can give him his best wishes and he gets into recovery well. So
agreed. I hope best for him and his family. Oh boy, we got some bots in the chat. We're gonna
yeah,
become famous, don't you know? Uh,
I can't. Well, let me,
yeah, I don't know. Twitch is weird about that.
you good if I time him out?
Go for it, please. Time them. But yeah, on to our next piece of news. It's very lighthearted, which is Oscar Isaac, who plays Poe Dameron, and Pedro Pascal, who's Din in The Mandalorian. They spent their New Year's together, and it's there. If you look it up, there's a really funny and wholesome picture of them. Pedro Pascal is drinking. He has like a party hat on, and then Oscar Isaac's like looking up under him while he's like under his arm. It's really funny.
Yeah, you should. Man, we should be able to pull it up because it's such a great photo.
Let me see if I can. Might take a bit
Yeah,
though.
no, yeah, we'll worry about that later. We can put it in the show notes. It's such a they posted
Yeah,
it on their Instagram,
yeah,
which it's just nice to see now you can get into the whole social distancing COVID thing, but it's at least good to see that people who aren't in similar roles in Star
yeah,
Wars are hanging out. But I mean, both of these gentlemen are Hispanic, so
yeah,
maybe there's some camaraderie there. So we don't know, but it's
yeah,
cool to see.
yeah. I saw that. I was like, that just made me happy.
Yeah,
And our final piece of news is the newest era in Star Wars. The High Republic officially starts this week and begins with Charles Soule's The Light of the Jedi, which we will be reviewing on not next week, 2 weeks from now show. Other releases include Cavan Scott's The Great Jedi Rescue, Cavan Scott's High Republic comic issue 1, and Justina Ireland's A Test of Jedi Courage. The
Yeah, that's.
oh
Oh,
sorry.
sorry, Charles. Keep going. No, you keep going.
Oh yeah. Uh, Out of those, the only like main like a for adults novel is Light of the Jedi. Comics are comics, of course, and then I believe Jedi Rescue and Test of Courage are both aimed at younger kids. I think one's for like middle schoolers and one's younger than that.
A te- What's the next book? The Light of the Jedi is the first book. Which one's the sequel?
I think I'm not entirely sure. I need to look that up.
Can you look it up? Because I'm just going to be putting my chin up to the chat.
Put a chin up to the chat. Yeah. Uh, oh, would it be the Into the Dark? That's supposed to come out in February.
I actually think it came out this month.
I don't know.
A Test of Courage is the sequel.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
I'm pulling it up on StarWars.com.
All right. Yeah, because there's a whole bunch of yeah. Also,
There's
the
so many
books aren't
books.
out
There's
yet.
so many comics. So
Yeah, there's plenty to talk about. I actually want to start getting into everything, but that'll be a lot. For now, do you want to just move on to the next topic?
oh yeah, we totally can. That's something we'll cover next week because the books are a little bit complicated with their release. It always has been for Lucasfilms.
Yeah, and of course, nothing comes out in order in Star Wars. But yeah,
Absolutely not.
so let's talk about the prequels, which is going to be our main topic for this week. And
Yeah, absolutely.
it was at least a controversial topic, although now more and more people love them all. Where I remember growing up, everybody hated all of them. So
What a change.
yeah, now
I
everyone
mean,
just hates the sequels.
yeah. So we're gonna do a good, the bad, and the ugly. Which it used to be. I don't know, Charlie. When we were kids, that was like the classic in game review. So
Yeah,
people
it
did.
was. That was
Um,
like
I think we have quite a
everywhere.
bit to talk about. I mean, obviously, we're talking about 3 movies, and this is all opinions. So we're just getting into how we feel and
Yeah,
what it is. But I think it's fun to talk about just because the prequels is something that either people love or they hate. But there's so much about it that's actually really, really fun.
yeah,
But so, Charlie, what do you feel should be noted, has to be noted in that category of good? What is the best
yeah.
things
Do we
to
want to
you
just go
about the
back and
prequels?
forth and then do one at a time of each of ours?
Yeah, no, perfectly fine. However we want to do it.
All right, sweet. So I think one of the cool things that it does is that it shows the inaction and like the arrogance of the Jedi and their flaws. We have a whole council, yet none of them show any amount of care towards Anakin throughout the entire time, other than Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, who dies in Phantom Menace.
Yeah. I mean, going back to the High Republic, that's just something we're going to get to explore more. And I think it was just a theme that they were introducing that just kind of worked for the plot that a lot of Star Wars fans really grabbed onto. So I just think it's going to be exciting to have the High Republic really build off of this theme that people really enjoyed. And obviously, it has enough strength that they're going to basically make a book series about it.
Yeah,
So
it'll be interesting. I just love that, like, literally none of the characters just even show any semblance of understanding of like Anakin's emotions, and it drives him basically to insanity. Like,
yeah, that's. I mean, I know like Berg just put that in chat. Like, I know some people feel like Obi-Wan didn't care for Obi-Wan in a certain way. So I it's definitely a different dynamic. I think Anakin never had the perfect mentor,
yeah,
and I think
that's
that was well explored.
yeah. Filoni talked about it in the gallery in or the season 1 gallery for the Mandalorian about the prequels. He was talking about how the entire thing with Anakin's arc is that he just doesn't have a father, and from that point, um, like him, like his whole life doesn't have a father, and he loses everyone close to him. But it starts entirely with Qui-Gon as like the father figure. Because there's finally like a strong male character that's like showing care for him, and right as that happens, while Anakin's up and away in space, it's taken away from him, and all everything that happens is because like he's always away whenever this stuff happens. Like he couldn't be there for his mother, he couldn't be there for Ahsoka, more so because she left him, but he couldn't be there for Padme when she was giving birth. Like,
Yeah, that's one of the things, as awful as the writing in the prequels is sometimes. I really did enjoy how much they explored the pain he felt of not being present for all these tragedies, because he had this feeling like, as he became more powerful, I wish I could stop this. And
yeah,
it makes sense. I mean, that's genuine trauma.
yeah, like, and that's like what makes him powerful because he associates the idea that if he's more powerful, if he's more stronger, he'll be a better Jedi, and a better Jedi will be able to save people because that's basically what Jedi do. He becomes a Jedi because he wants to genuinely help people as a kid, you
Yeah,
know?
which I think kind of this gets into one of your points. Like basically his entire plot line of becoming Darth Vader, I think is one of the things that was it is the thing that was the best executed. You can talk about the acting, but from a writing and a plot perspective, it was done very well. My thing though is that it was, and this we'll get into this in a few minutes, is that it wasn't the entire focus. It was in the background sometimes, which I
Yeah,
didn't really appreciate. But I mean, that is the best part about Revenge of the Sith is he is definitely, there's a marketed moment where it's like, yep, he is a Sith now. You get that he's accepting it, and then he has to emotionally step over the line. He loses Obi. Like they were really good about putting in tension and trauma and just genuine stakes for all these characters. So
yeah,
I'm definitely gonna agree with that point that you were gonna bring up. I know, but it's easy to transition into.
yeah. You want to go into your next point?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, this it feels weird to transition to this, but man, the prequels is one of those things. You know, we watched it as kids, and it's been 15 years since episode 3. And yeah, sometimes it's going to be a bit cheesy, but they are the most fun movies to watch just to go and have a good time and not be super serious about things. Like
Agreed.
seriously, you could literally play a drinking game where you have a drink every time in episode 2. Take a drink every time they say "milady." If you've never noticed it until now, it will, one, drive you insane and you'll need alcohol, or two, you've already brought it and you'll have a good time. So just go ahead and do the second option, because you're
Yeah,
never going to watch that movie the same now. Maybe you'll never watch it again, because the milady thing,
it drove me
I think,
insane on my rewatch. My two
what I told you.
rewatches this like past 2 weeks.
Yeah, sorry I ruined that part for you. It's so funny because you never notice it.
Oh yeah,
When my girlfriend and I watched it, I was like, I started noticing it, and then I looked up the script. They say it 27 times.
it's so excessive.
It's the worst.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. That 27 is so excessive. I was like, man, they're really saying that a lot. And then like
Yeah,
I think it was like 2 days after you texted me about it or Snapchatted me.
yeah. 1 and 2 are probably the best to have drinking games for.
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes you just need a drink to be able to get through the Jar Jar Banks scenes, but that's a one problem. Two, it's like it's just a blast if you go in the right mindset.
yeah.
3, when he's killing children, might be hard to drink too, unless you think it's funny. I don't know. Some people do. Some people think
By the way, I
3 is the
learned
funniest one.
something about that scene. So you know how
What?
that kid gets scared and like steps back when he ignites the lightsaber? They were filming
Yeah.
that scene like, and obviously it was just Anakin's hand, so they filmed that part in like post or whatever and just merged it over, like the film over. But the reason they scared that kid because Hayden Christensen like popped out of nowhere on set and was just like boo and scared the kid.
That's great.
Then he was like, so that's
Yeah,
like where the little step back comes to.
that's funny. I didn't know that. That's actually fun.
Yeah. Shout out to TikTok for all that information.
Yeah, Star Wars TikTok.
Star Wars TikTok is great and cancerous at the same time, but
I don't use TikTok, so
it's great because it has like a bunch of like really good small creators that just are like they're good about their canon, their theory and stuff, and or they're all non-toxic. Like the community on TikTok will literally just come together and be like they'll call out someone for being toxic. Like 100 people will. It's great.
good. All right, Charlie.
All right,
Take your
so
next point.
my next point for the good is we get to see Palpatine's plan in action starting in episode 1. And this really like it shows him as the plan, and that's what I really love about it. He sets up the whole Trade Federation thing solely so he can get elected. And it's I just love how that works out for him.
Yeah, it's that's the thing about the prequels that I understand people not liking. It is extremely politically focused. And that's kind of where I got into with, you know, I mean, even in some parts like Anakin and his mom dying, it's a big turning point, but it's literally sandwiched between two political like parts of the movie of the second movie.
That is
The
true.
first movie is all politics and intrigue, and it's just not like if you just watch, you know,
And
when
pod
it first
racing.
came out. And pod racing, yeah. Oh my god, don't even get started. We'll get to the ugly in a minute, Charlie.
Whoa.
I know that's a hard take. Some people love the pod racing.
Me.
I don't blame you. It's we'll get to that. Uh, no, but it's definitely a different tone than what we'd seen in Star Wars, and I think it was refreshing for Palpatine. But you know, I think that kind of that's what made things weird for me when the sequels came out. Is like he's a politically minded character,
Yeah.
like him just being this master plotter. I was like, no, he's a master of political intrigue. It doesn't just carry over to how to cheat life and death and hiding civilizations and armies and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I mean, he literally hired generals for the empire for a reason. He wasn't a master tactician.
Yeah. There's a so have I just finished the Tarkin book and they kind of touched on something that's like related to what you said about him being politically minded. But there's a part of the book where it's from Palpatine's point of view, and during the book, I forget what it's called. It's like the something spike. I want to say it's like the Halion spike or whatever. It's whatever Tarkin ship was. That wasn't the electric, or you know. But his basically his ship gets stolen. It's one of a kind, and he's like in a meeting with all like the Moffs and generals about it, and he's just like sitting there thinking, and he has like an inner monologue, and he's like, how would my master Plagueis really feel about me just having an entire day where all I'm doing is talking with these people about how to get the Star Cruiser back?
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, so that was like a cool thing in there. I think in terms of the prequels, though, where a lot of his stuff really comes together as a character is episode 3 in his way of basically manipulating Anakin to
Oh
become
yeah,
Darth Vader. I think that's where it all like that movie's great of making that come to fruition, all from the get go to when they behead Dooku, all the way until like to the end of the movie, where he gets Anakin to get rid of Mace Windu, basically.
yeah. I mean, he just continuously gaslights and manipulates them. It's it is well crafted.
Yeah,
Yeah, I sorry, I'm just reading chat because I know Berg's putting stuff in there, but he's pretty much only put good points so far. So I'm gonna keep touching on him. Um, he says that he thinks the High Republic will be a lot of politics. I like the Phantom Menace. I think so. I really hope not. I
I
hope
th-
they handle it in a way like the books that were originally this were the sequels were placed in. Which was about Jason Solo and the Skywalker kids and the Galactic Republic. That's how it was. It was really politically focused and it really showed, you know, how the Jedi were so bloated again. And it really went into that and basically was like mirroring the Clone Wars. And I think that's what the High Republic will do.
yeah. I
Um,
think it'll take us up to that part of the timeline.
so I'm interested to see if they have the balance. because for me, I think that's where we get into the bad
Yeah.
with that kind of thing. But let's see, is there anything else we want to talk about with?
Oh, also just to
Yeah,
touch on that, I think in terms of politics for the High Republic era books, I think since it's going to be about like the Nile and the Great Disaster, and we know they're going. This is basically the time era where the core worlds really start to venture out into like the mid and outer rim regions
yeah,
of space, and like basically doing all the charting and the discovering and all that fun stuff. I
so
think
cool.
uh, politically it will be like how do you operate in these situations, and it's like I think a big part of like that discovery will and like seeing the Jedi's fall will be basically seeing how they have to not necessarily like militarize it, but they do have to start going to do these things for basically a central government because that's who's really going to be operating like this exploration.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of diplomacy too, but we'll see how it pans out with balance.
Yeah.
Before we move on, I want to talk about one of your talking points because we've kind of hit all of mine in some way or another. The soundtrack
Yes.
and the sound design, first of all, amazing, amazing. It's your point, so I'll let you get into what you
Yeah.
wanted to talk about there, and
In
I'll kind of add
general,
into it.
like the prequels nail all the sounds in the way that the original trilogy like it did in specific ways, but like everything in the prequels has it feels like the correct sound if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like
I'm with you on that.
like as great as the original trilogy is in terms of sound design, there's nothing quite like the seismic charge in episode 2, which I was glad to see return to Mando.
Yeah,
Like
they had to bring that back. It was just so.
I was so happy when they did. But and then like the lightsabers just in general sound way better and cleaner. They're much more believable, and that's just like technology coming through.
Yeah, and
After
that's
so many years.
one of the great parts about um the the prequels, in my opinion, is just man, they used their technology to their benefit. I mean, the sound design was some of the best we had seen in the two by that point in the 2000s. No one had done sound design like that. The
Yeah,
score for those movies are still raved about. I mean, when I was in
yeah,
high school, we sang um Duel of Fates for a concert, which was amazing.
that's
One of the
lit.
coolest experiences in my life. I sang it in a church, by the way, the largest cathedral in the United States. I sang Duel of Fates. But that's a side note.
Which one is that?
It's St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City.
Okay.
I think that's the name. It's right by Rockefeller Square. But the other thing they did super well, and this can be a point of contention because some things look awful, but they did such a good job about filling space and really making characters look alien and
Yeah,
feel out, especially on Tatooine. That was the best we had seen. Where stuff, there's
yeah,
so many little details in the background. I mean, even the extremely famous or infamous, which side, whichever side you stand on it, of the Galactic Senate, and then you have the ETs and one of that little Easter egg,
yeah,
they just went to town with the animation in those. I
yeah,
mean, there's some stuff that looks horrible, don't get me wrong, but the majority of it is just so at that time technologically sound. Like,
yeah. And obviously, like they get better as they go on, and also a lot of like, in terms of practical effects, there's parts of that movie that don't get enough credit, or like those movies. Like for example, so the like that in that garage that they're standing in right before the pod race in episode 1. That entire thing is like a mini set design. Like it's just like a giant like mini. Like everything is built to scale on a mini by artists.
cool. I
And
did
then
not know that actually.
they basically use their tech to green screen and blue screen all of the other stuff in. So like I think they had the entire like Mos Espa track or a big part of it of like that whole crowd and everything. Like all of like the stands and everything. That was all practical, but like just the aliens weren't, which is so cool.
Huh. That was actually really cool to know.
Yeah. I watched like
Cool.
a thing. It was like a Star Wars celebration like 1 or 2 years ago where it was the guy that was like basically the art director for that. And it was like him working with George Lucas forever. And he was just talking about how George Lucas would vaguely describe what kind of art to make the entire time and what stuff they'd work on. It's really cool
Right.
because he's talking about making droids, and George Lucas's like vague advice was like, "Yeah, just design the next stormtrooper." And the guy's like, "All right, I'll make some stormtroopers and like draw them up." And he's like, "No, like what I mean is like, what's something different?"
He is the worst. We'll get it. Okay,
The
actually, let's
most
just move on from
specific
that.
thing he described it in terms of like trying to get him to draw it though was like uh was literally Watto. He knew exactly what he wanted for Watto.
Mm, don't get me started on that.
Hey,
That's my
honey, huh?
yeah. We're gonna get into that. Was actually really good, Charlie. I'm proud of you on that
Thank you.
one.
It's my space Italian.
Yeah, he's not Italian. We'll get into that in a second.
Yeah, I saw that.
Um, let's get into the bad because I'm really excited to talk about the ugly as well. I think it's
Yeah,
really fun to shit on the prequels as much as I love them. Just it's so
same.
easy, and it's just satisfying. So for me, this most people I think would put this in an ugly, but it's just low hanging fruit. The dialogue is so garbage
It's
sometimes. Actually, I disagree. I disagree with myself. I didn't say that right. The garbage is the dialogue is written okay. The directing choices and how it's I don't want to say it's the acting
it's like
because it's
it's how it's
definitely a directing
presented.
choice. It's just the how the dialogue's presented. It's so garbage. It's Anakin, Padme, and really I hate to hate on my boy, but Ewan McGregor, um, so Obi-Wan, Padme, and Anakin, almost half of their lines are extremely stilted. Now, I do understand. This was pretty recently. I think I talked about it on last week's show. But George Lucas pretty much came out and said, if you watch the prequels and are expecting good dialogue, you're not watching the movie right.
Yeah.
And in one regard, I'm like, yeah, it's about the action and the plot and the story. It's still part of the movie. It's still a major motion
Yeah,
picture. It's from one of the largest
it's
studios
subject
at
to
that time.
critique.
Yeah. And just because something's easy to critique doesn't mean it doesn't need to be.
Right.
Um, I think it's a good example of why. I mean, they just told so much stuff instead of showing, which we'll get into. But it was so stilted. It was like watching a Wes Anderson movie. When I went back and watched it again, I was like, this is odd.
This is not how people talk.
Sand. I hate sand. I honestly don't mind the dialogue. Who do you speak to on a regular basis who speaks
Milady.
like anyone in that? Yeah, the plot is more important. I agree with that, but like, the dialogue.
It
Which, to
is.
be fair,
But when
some of the
it's like
movies,
if it's noticeably bad, then it's like that's kind of a problem. Like
yeah, and
it's
I
not
will
like
be
me
honest.
being like super picky about it. It's like they're trying to have a serious moment. I burst into laughter.
Yeah,
Like
I shouldn't be laughing at like, is it the opera house where Palpatine's telling him about the tale of Darth Plagueis?
Darth Plague. Have you ever heard of the tale of Darth Plagueis
Oh,
the
the
Wise?
tragedy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my gosh,
It is
it's
not a
just so
tale the
funny.
Jedi would tell you. It's an entire
Yeah,
copy pasta. You can literally look up like Barack Obama reading it, like
yeah, that is a fun one.
through a
It's the
voice.
same thing for me. It's the same thing with the romance. They wrote and had Anakin, like Hayden Christensen deliver Anakin's line so creepy. He doesn't
Yeah.
take no for an answer. I was just like, it made my skin crawl. Like he was gonna come through the screen and touch me inappropriately. I'm like,
Also, in
worst type.
terms of like what I mean about like laughing at the bad dialogue, the one thing that gets me every time is when Anakin and Padme kiss, and then like the love theme starts playing, and then she like pushes him away. She's like, I shouldn't have done that.
I shouldn't have done that. Like,
I was just like,
she's such a major actress now. I'm like,
it's so
bro.
funny every time.
The problem, one of my biggest things about the dialogue is this actually has to do with the romance. Is the first movie does not do a good job of highlighting that he is 9 and she is 14.
Yeah.
It makes her seem like a pedophile from step one.
Yeah, I know. Literally, the
Because
only
what?
reason I know their ages is because of Weird Al Yankovic. Like,
Oh, I had to look it up.
because
Because I forgot. I was watching it again, and
yeah,
we're
because
just
his
like, "Oh, this is
American
so
Pie
cringy."
parody that I listened
Oh,
to like
yeah.
1,000 times when I was a child.
Yeah, she was 19. He was 19, and she was 24
Yeah,
as of the Clone Wars, which isn't that bad. But man,
yeah. At least like
I,
the Clone Wars fixes a lot of like their relationship stuff.
yeah.
But
All right,
even
Charlie,
then,
I'll let
like,
you get into your bad because I've taken up most of this time right now.
but yeah, but even then, sorry, I wanted to make this point.
Oh no, you're good.
Uh, like his his dialogue, it's so aggressive from the get go in episode 2. He's like, I've thought about her every day. And I was like, I get that you're trying to show that he's been thinking about it, but it's so random for him to bring it up to Obi-Wan.
No, 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 no. You're not getting at. I want to talk about what Berg just brought up because it's a good point. But I want to talk about this first. It's not that he's like, I think about her every day. He's like, my flesh is searing with the thought of her
Yeah,
every
literally.
day. It's pain without her in my life. And now that she's here, I want to die and kill myself. I'm like, what the
The
fuck
fuck?
is going on?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
Qui-Gon Jinn is so underused.
agreed.
That's definitely a bad, if not an ugly, for me. I agree. I hope we have more of him in Acolyte, just because what an interesting character. And I
Yeah,
mean, they cut a lot of it out into Legends, where he was, he was the only one who was willing to explore the Sith. He knew that the Jedi were bloated. He really didn't care if he was if Anakin was a force of good or evil. He was just like a servant to the Force, thick and thin, and like
yeah.
that was the coolest part of him.
You have to be balanced, not just one-sided. Come on.
Exactly, he was the Jedi, like pretty much the only Jedi
That's why
out of
he's the
all
one
of them.
that is the only one that could figure out how to Force Ghost, at least from their time.
Yeah, and then Mace Windu, like the only. Yeah, he uses a forbidden lightsaber technique. That's the only complexity that character had.
Yeah. He's just mean to Anakin the entire time.
I like when they transferred him in the Clone
Not
Wars.
that he's
Still,
wrong, but
yeah, no, he's not wrong. But then he's still a prick in the Clone Wars. I'm like, they changed every character except him, and he's still an asshole.
yeah. Anyways, over to my bad. Uh, not to be challenging. Jar Jar Binks and Phantom Menace. And I don't have a problem with him like doing a lot of the stuff. Like a lot of people hate how he's supposed to be like way too comedic, and he is. And I'm like, I get that. I understand that hate. But what I hate is how he is the one that somehow saves the day on the Battle of Naboo. Like
Yeah,
specifically.
it is the worst comedic effect you could ask for. Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah, well, it's because it's like it's supposed to be funny, but it's not. And it's supposed to be a good fight scene, but it's ruined by it. By the attempts of comedy. And it's just like this could have been a much more interesting fight of what
It
you had
also
set
just
up.
trivializes the guns.
That's true.
It just slaps the comedy. And that's the thing that's the best about the Mandalorian. I know we talked about it this last week. Is their writing style for the Mandalorian was all about situational comedy.
Yep.
The characters weren't laughing. There wasn't silly stuff. It was meant to be silly in some ways. Like,
Yeah.
that's a good example. But for Jar Jar Binks, they're just trying too hard. They're just trying too hard, and it's for children. It was for children. I get that, but I don't know if I was the only kid, but I vehemently remember hating Jar Jar Binks when I was a kid,
Yeah, I
and
did
my
too.
mom still teased me about it to this day. He's just so weird. That's all I could say. He's just so weird. I don't
He
like
jumped
him.
a lot in Lego Star Wars, and that was pretty great.
He was one of the best characters in Lego Star Wars. As you're playing that right now, right?
Yeah. Solely for jumping
Okay.
though. He can't even punch. I hope
Yeah,
they
it's
at
mostly
least
for
fix that.
platforming.
But yeah, I think it would have at least been cooler if he grew, because he comes to be a senator after saving the day. Like that's kind of like where he gets his respect, coming from like banishment to senator. It'd at least be interesting to be like, oh no, he like actually did stuff, but no, he just was being as stupid as always. Like I don't mind him like retaining his goofiness in like Clone Wars and stuff, but
Yeah,
like
in Clone Wars, he's actually at least believable.
yeah, but in this it's just like, oh nope, he's just released a whole bunch of bombs. Oh, well, luckily they all went into the tanks, and I'm like,
Yeah,
Okay.
luckily he's sliding on all of them.
Yeah, like it's so dumb. But yeah.
All right. You have your one last point, which I actually really want you to bring up because I think
Oh
it's
yeah.
interesting.
Without without Clone Wars in context, there's like no good way to see Anakin as rational at like any point, like at all.
Yeah.
Like he's just in episode 2 is just like episode 1 is the only time he's rational. He's just rational because he's a child. And he's acting
Yeah,
like
which
a
is
child.
not good.
Yeah. And then apparently he just blows up a space station. Has like no worries about that, but that's another topic. And then episode 2, it's just I'm obsessed with Padme. And episode
My
3, it's like, oh no,
flesh
Padme's
burns with
gonna
the thought of
die.
her.
I have to save her. And then he's like, I'm gonna force choke her. No point is he being rational.
Yeah.
The only time
Yeah.
he's rational, it is like they get trapped in the ray shields, and he's like, don't worry, we'll wait for R2 to come along. And then wow. He's
Yeah,
like,
and
see,
that
it
was
worked
more of
out.
just done for a plot transition. They couldn't think of a good transition, so they're just like,
Yeah.
he'll take care of
There's
it.
so many deleted scenes for that one specific thing. I like the one
Yeah.
where they cut out and they go under. And it's like they're
I
getting
need
chased
to.
by water robot battle droids. Also, apparently they just tried to kill Shakti like 5 times in the movie, but never put it in.
Oh yeah, I remember
Grievous
the shitty
executes her
animation
in
they
one.
showed.
Anakin executes her in another during 66. I'm like, why do they just want to specifically kill Shakti?
Yeah, let's move on into the ugly if you're good with that because
Yeah,
I'm
I am.
I mean, Charlie, you're calling this your bad, but like this is my ugly. They had to make how many seasons was the Clone Wars cartoon?
7.
7. They had to make a we'll say 6 because the seventh one, you know, just came out a couple was how long ago was that? A few
February.
months ago, right? February, right? Yeah, almost a year ago. But here's the thing: you shouldn't need a 6 to 7 season show to fix all the flaws in 2 movies,
Agreed.
arguably 3. But because I think it fixed a lot of the stuff that episode 1 and episode 2 did
Yeah.
wrong. It gave some context to young Anakin, his mother, and like all his background, and then it really helped transition into the importance of the Clone Wars and what was going on. And it's so lame to be like, oh, hey, this is the start of a massive war. This is how it happened. But then we never got to see it until the Clone Wars cartoons.
Yeah, like the most we see
It,
of the Clone Wars as like a big event is literally just the opening part of episode 3 and the ending of episode 2.
and both of those are just giant set piece. Um,
Yeah, like we
I
don't
mean, it's
know
all
like
CG.
yeah, like we just don't know like what that's we don't really understand like the consequences of it, and that's kind of what Clone Wars does. It puts that into perspective.
It was just there was a lack of focus on what really was engrossing in the plot. Like
Yeah.
I mean, Clone Wars is great. I'll agree with that. Like Clone Wars is great because it gave context to the side characters, as Bert just said. But like, it stopped focusing on the politics. It
Yeah.
wasn't interested in that. It was worried about the
Yeah.
action, the characters, the depth it had great dialogue.
Yeah.
And
And even
here's
then
the
like at least like the politics are more they're more like grounded in a more like realistic sense. Like I want to say it's like the storm over Ryloth or battle over Ryloth, the Ryloth
yeah,
arc. Like it shows not just the war as a set piece, but it also shows the consequences of war. When it's Waxer and Boyle, I think, they find that little girl and they protect her the entire time. Little Twillick girl.
yeah. I don't know. For me, it it did so many things wrong, and yeah, it had a bit of politics, but when it did it, it was grounded in other stakes. It wasn't
Yeah.
just politics for the sake of politics. It was about
Yeah.
saving people, saving things. It was fun, but also, you know what? It's the great part about the Clone Wars cartoons. The entire plot doesn't hinge on the actions of Jar Jar Binks. That's my greatest ugly. If I could tell you I hate
I
anything
agree.
and I could put a "this is the worst thing in movies ever" on a billboard, it would be fuck Jar Jar Binks.
They
Fuck
even
him.
make that in
Fuck him.
they make fun of that in Rebels too.
Yeah.
There's like this is worse than Senator Banks' speech, like for like, and it tells you like the exact timeline or whatever, 10 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, I just it everything that happens is as a result of Jar Jar Binks, one way or another. If
Yeah,
you remove him, the Star Wars plot does not exist. And for a slapstick comedic figure, why the fuck has that happened?
yeah.
It's unacceptable. That's just unacceptable to writing. It would be as if in the sequels, Babu Frick was the character who the entire timeline hinged upon.
That would be really
Just
fun.
for context.
Yeah. At least he's not actually driving the plot. At least he's like moved by the plot. He's just like Jar Jar do this, and he's like Misa do it.
Yeah. Which he's actually interesting. I think they did a better job of that. We'll let you get into yours because I'm just gonna rant, Charlie,
Yeah,
and you're just gonna have to stop me and
I'm
push me into
fine with
talking
it.
points.
You want to rant about Jar Jar? Go for it. But yeah. So
Oh
we're
my
doing ugly.
god. Yeah, this is all ugly, and I'm really excited for one of your points.
The overutilization of CGI and the CGI pair.
If you have not seen this, for context, anyone in chat or anyone listening, look up Star Wars CGI pair. This is when they're in Padme's
Does that actually
lakeside
come up?
mansion. Yeah, I think so. Because I looked it up the other day because that's how I found it. Um, so they spend so much time in episodes 1 and 2 talking about how you shouldn't use the force unnecessarily, only use it when you need it. And then 2 scenes, and Yoda literally says that while he's talking to the Padawans, and then he tells one of the Padawans to close the blinds with the force. Okay.
Hey,
And
Obi-Wan
then
does it with doors all the time. He's
I
every
know.
time he's
Like, don't use it for trivial things. Everything. I love Obi-Wan, don't get me wrong, but the CGI pair where he pulls it looks horrible because the pair looks awful as it's moving through, and then when he slices it, it looks awful. I really like the CGI and the effects they did for some things like aliens, but
yeah.
why did they do it for a pair?
No
Pair
practical pairs on set. It has to rotate. It's the only way to
has
make
to
it
rotate.
believable. We couldn't have just a normal pair.
Or just not have that scene.
Yeah. Or, make it something else in like a different context. It had to be a pair. It couldn't have just been him being bored playing with rocks. Where, I don't know, he could have at least done, I don't know, he could have set the table with the force. That would have been cute. Probably would have been another scene I probably would have complained about. But
Yeah, we'd probably be complaining. I don't think there's any good way to do that scene.
no, not really. Oh, yeah, so you want to go on to one of your uglies?
Which one? Okay, this is less about the movie. And I'll take a break from shitting on Lucasfilms. Um, how Jake Lloyd was treated. That might be one of the ugliest things ever. The kid literally, so he does have, he's bipolar, he has mental health issues, but man, this kid was treated so shit. And I don't understand. He's one of the better child actors I've ever seen.
Agreed.
He was believable. He acted like a kid. Everyone wanted him to act like an adult. Yeah, sure. When some of the stuff he said was stilted, but you know what? Every other character sounded like an idiot in that. So why can't the kid?
Right?
I don't get it. They're like, oh, he's a terrible actor. Bully this kid for being in this nerd movie.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you go be in one of the biggest film franchises ever, and then call me a nerd. I'll be sitting with my $1 million. Like, piss off. Like,
Yeah.
how is that a legitimate argument to be like, oh, this child actor is bad?
Also, who just goes out and bullies child actors? Who is doing this? What is happening to child actors?
The same people who fucking told the actor who played Rose in the sequels to kill herself.
Yeah. I hate people.
People have no lives. I don't understand.
It's like, yeah, let's hate on this person because, I mean, more than likely it's probably because they're racist and misogynistic, but that's another thing.
Yeah, Rose was a little bit different than, this
child.
Kid,
Yeah.
white kid.
But yeah, people just have no lives.
Yeah, 100%.
And speaking of that, the way the Star Wars fans treated Ahmed Best was another thing that was also terrible. Who plays Jar Jar? Which we can hate Jar Jar, and that's fine. Don't be mean to that man.
It's you write a bad character.
The
You
character's
don't
bad, not the
let them
person.
take. Yeah, exactly. If you don't give them the ability to do what they did, I guarantee for what they wrote, he did the best job possible.
Agreed.
Because let's be honest, the way they did Jar Jar Binks feels like if you go watch a movie, an old ass movie, it feels like a minstrel show character. It is horrible. There's just no reason they needed to make Jar Jar Binks the way they did, and it really feels stereotypical, like racially stereotypical.
Yeah.
And people even went at the actor for that. I'm like, that's not his fault.
Fault.
He did what he was told to do. He played the character.
Yeah. Yeah. And that
It's just why go after these actors when great example, because this will kind of transition to something I want to talk about. Because it's really, they're going at these actors, and they still do today.
Yeah. And
but Hayden Christensen, people dog on him constantly for being such a he's a horrible actor, can't deliver dialogue. If you've ever watched something he's been in other than that, he is one of the most emotive actors I've ever seen.
Yeah. Also, when he said "I hate you," I felt that.
Well, I also hated him during those movies. So I was just like,
yeah,
shut the fuck up.
Hey, at least he's coming back, and the direction should be better. So,
oh my god, I hope he does well. I really don't want another bad performance.
I think it'll be
Anakin, Darth Vader.
Yeah, and I'm assuming they're gonna use that stuff and flesh out. Like there's been rumors of them like fleshing out Clone Wars stuff with flashbacks and stuff, and I think that'd be good to see him, be able to really like flesh out that character and not seem, irrationally and madly in love the entire time.
My skin burns. I'm just gonna keep making that joke, but fuck, man, so stupid.
It is. I love it, but so dumb.
I mean, the underutilization of acting talent is just one of the biggest problems with that. Like, you had so many people on that. Some of the biggest names in Hollywood at that time. I mean, Sir Christopher Lee played Count Dooku.
Samuel L. Jackson's Mace Windu.
Yeah, and his only request when given this terrible script is that they rewrite it and give him a purple lightsaber. Christopher Lee was asking all these questions, and they gave him nothing.
Yeah.
They just gave him nothing.
From Samuel L. Jackson's interviews, I'm entirely convinced he took the role because they described how much of a powerful Jedi he was in the script.
Like, he just wanted to be a badass. Like, there's no way he didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Because literally, when he was talking to George Lucas and he asked for the purple lightsaber, he was like, "Come on, I'm like the second most powerful Jedi right now. Can't I at least get a purple lightsaber?" He's like, "Maybe. Talk to me tomorrow." And he's like, "Here's a purple lightsaber."
Yeah.
And the reason he wanted the purple lightsaber was for in episode 2, when they have the sky shot of the fight on Geonosis in the arena, so he can point out and see where he is.
The dumbest shit I've ever heard.
I love that so much.
But he got paid and has a ton of money, so I'm not gonna make fun of him. Let's
see. Untapped of. Oh yeah. The other thing I want to talk about.
More Clone Wars. Episode 2, the Clone Wars hate. Attack of the Clones.
Yeah. The untapped potential of awesome characters. And we do see it in Clone Wars, to be fair. I mean, Star Wars will eventually see everything at some point. If there's a story, someone will tell it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's hundreds of Jedi, and they all fight terribly except for 3 of them.
Yeah, Mace Windu, Yoda, Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Speaking in terms of episode 2.
Yeah, well, and Anakin, but yeah, he kind of gets his shit rocked. But
he gets his literal.
Then he gets his cool, and then arm, yeah,
because he's dual wielding, right?
Yeah, because the one. Anyways, also I didn't realize this, but I never bothered to look at his lightsaber hilt in episode 2 versus episode 3, and if he ever remade it, because it gets destroyed in that one scene in the droid factory.
Yeah, I think they kind of forgot about that scene, to be honest, because it's just magically he has another blue lightsaber, and
Then
they
that,
referred to it as his.
well, yeah, well then he takes Obi-Wan's and he has that random green one, and then one of them gets. I don't know. Let's not talk about that. But yeah, there's so many cool Jedi, and they just swing terribly. And like, I love that scene where all the Jedi are like rushing, and it looks like it's about to be cool, and then you see like 5 of them swing like at this.
Like they've never held a sword in their life before.
Yeah, literally, or like even a baseball bat. Like, it's
Yeah,
like
I
what are you doing? There are five
like,
forms, and you have none of them. Not to be the guy that like brings up the forms of using a lightsaber or a sword or anything, but I mean, I don't know. It's not even like the baseball bat swing. It's not even like
well, let's just establish this. At the time of making episode 2, the, from my understanding, the 5 lightsaber techniques were already established in canon.
yeah, I'm pretty sure they were.
They were already in the books.
Yeah,
So,
well, yeah,
but here's my point. George Lucas is the director. George Lucas is aware that there are 5 lightsaber forms. Not a single one, other than Mace Windu, fights with one. Actually, Mace Windu and Obi-Wan fights with any of those forms.
correction. Christopher Reeves, because he had the fencing thing. But he does he even fight? Like, he barely fights like that for a little bit.
What character?
Dooku.
Yeah, Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee. My bad. Ugh.
No, you're good.
Big
I
poopy
was like,
mouth.
who the fuck? Christopher Reeves. I'm
Reeves.
like, I know who that is. But
No, but yeah, they created that. At least they said they created that form for that character because he actually used to fence. So they're
yeah,
like,
I mean,
let's make a
he's a
character that
swordsman.
fences. Yeah,
Yeah, and he was fantastic. Maybe we should have. That should have definitely been on our good.
yeah,
Just Count Dooku as a character, Christopher Lee, everything about him was badass,
yeah.
sophisticated, fun, interesting. I mean, I wanted 3 movies just about Count Dooku, and
At
they
least
kill him
he's
at the beginning of episode 3.
at least he's awesome in Clone Wars.
Oh, amazing.
Like there are 3 Night
Amazing
Sister
character.
assassins that are invisible with lightsabers, and he fights them all off in his pajamas.
Dude, that is one of the best episodes of the Clone Wars
That and the whole Night
ever.
Sisters arc, but we'll get into that another time.
When he throws them out the window,
Yes.
oh,
Oh, dude.
so cool.
Also, do you have a random CGI shot that you just hate in that movie, or like a scene,
2.
or I guess any of the prequels? Because the one that really
Um,
bothers me, and I can't explain why, it's the one where Dooku leaves like the arena and he goes to, I guess, like his shuttle bay or whatever. They have before the fight. There's like a shot where he's like riding that thing, and it comes down, but it comes down so weird, and the background just looks off, and I can't explain it.
No, there's a lot of scenes like that. It's just one of the things where there's so many bad CG scenes. I know that's one of my goods. Like I love the CG, but that's mostly for characters. The background filler CG is just so garb sometimes.
Yeah, and then
um,
other times it's like Coruscant and was like, "This is so in depth."
yeah, Coruscant looks amazing. So I'm with you. It's on Geonosis for me too. It's actually the very end of the movie when they're shooting down. Their spaceships that are in the big circles, the big spheres.
Yeah,
It looks so garbage. Like the way it hit the ground looked like anime.
yeah.
It just did not fit.
Oh, by the way, um, I was watching
What's up?
another George Lucas interview recently this week, but apparently, when they were just talking about like making the Clone Wars cartoon, the idea originally started as him just wanting to make a Clone Wars like war movie, which I still want that to exist at some point, but
Yeah.
that's where that idea came from. I just thought that was
Yeah, I mean,
worth
I
bringing
think
up.
we're gonna explore that more. I mean, yeah, just look by watching the stuff and listening to interviews of Dave Filoni and Favreau. They just have a giant boner for the Clone Wars.
Yeah. Also,
It's
I didn't realize how much stuff John Favreau had worked on before The Mandalorian in terms of like Star Wars stuff and being characters and like Clone Wars and Solo even.
Yeah,
I was like, I
and
didn't.
he's written on a couple shows,
Yeah.
so a couple episodes of the show. So great guy. So Charlie, without me getting into the whole Watto thing and making a 15-minute rant, I think it's probably best that we move on to.
Hey,
We could do that.
Kenny, come
Shut the
on,
fuck
talk
up.
about Watto.
I don't even fuck want to talk about that. We'll talk about it in another episode if we just do episode 1 or 2.
All right.
Let's move on to the social media questions.
All right, yeah. So, the questions are from Berg. Berg can drop any more. Go through chat
Yeah,
and
Berg,
see if
if
he
you're
has.
still in chat, you can
It's
still
it's
put some in if
basically
you
the
want.
Berg comment section. This is basically what it is. But unrelated to that, or I guess entirely related to that.
Yeah.
Berg asked if we think Thrawn will get his own live action movie, and for at least for me, I don't think he will. I think he's gonna end up being the villain. I'd like it. I think it'd be cool. I just think he's gonna be the villain of like the Mando Ahsoka Rangers thing.
I think, will he be the main character in a live action movie? Would it would be amazing. I would love to see that. That would be badass.
Yeah.
Will they do it? Probably not. Could he be the villain in a live action movie? Considering how integral he seems to be to all these plot arcs, I think it's possible.
Yeah. Also, there's still more Thrawn books coming, so
yeah, it's entirely possible. Will we get him as a main character? Doubtful.
yeah.
Would it be amazing? I mean, I would just love to have the live action movie of him on his rise to power in the Empire and like dealing with all these racist characters, and he's just like kicking the shit out of all these people professionally or literally.
And they like don't really touch on it entirely they do touch on it a bit in Rebels. What I love is like it's the episode where they go back to Ryloth and basically Hera Syndulla basically gets found out by Thrawn. I love that episode because the one guy, he's just like the one Imperial officer, you can tell he's at least like a humanist, if not just a racist. And he's like, get this slave out of here or whatever. And he's like, why, this is Hera Syndulla. Like by the end of the scene, and he's like explaining their art and like their culture of their people. And I just love that. He's like Hera, please excuse him for being an idiot.
I like him. It's such an interesting character.
Yeah, we'll talk about him a lot on our best villains episode because I still think he's the best villain.
That's gonna be he is the best villain. I mean, spoilers for one of our future episodes. He's the best villain. We don't even need to get into that yet.
Yeah.
I'll read the next question, also from Berg, because welcome to the Berg Show. Will Din have to fight Bo-Katan to the death to make her the leader of Mandalore? Charlie, I'm gonna let you take a stab at that one first because I got some opinion.
Personally, I don't think so. I just don't think they're gonna kill that character that way. Either of them, honestly. Could they fight? Yeah, but what I think is gonna happen is that he's gonna be a more reluctant hero. He's gonna have to find reason why he's gonna want to take over his planet. I think we're gonna see more of the armor and anyone left in the like their what do they call themselves? We have to relocate the covert, yeah. Basically, yeah. So I think we're gonna see more of anyone that's left. The one is last name Vizsla, and is voiced by Jon Favreau, the one that he gets in a fight with. So I think we're gonna see that character again, at least that and the armorer. And I think those characters might be his motivation as to why he would take over Mandalore. And I know the armor has to come back because, first of all, they made her incredibly badass when there was really no reason to. We could have cut away.
They show that I mean, one of the classic things in Star Wars is not killing your people on screen, but they made a point to show that she wasn't dead after that.
Exactly.
She literally killed all. She's coming back. There's no way.
Yeah.
My thing.
Also, random thing. She's coming to Galaxy of Heroes in like a few weeks or something. So obviously, they don't put characters that aren't ever coming back into a mobile game to, like, sell for money.
All hype.
Yeah,
it's all hype. Yeah. For me, the natural arc of this is I agree. You know, Bo Katan, she's got some jealousy. There, a fight will happen. Um, you can quote me on this, and I will. I will. I don't know. I don't know what I'll do if I'm wrong, but I'll do something. I don't fucking know. You can quote me on this. Bo Katan will not be the leader of Mandalore. It's
Yeah,
just not. It's not in her plot arc. I think there will be a fight. I don't think it will be to the death. I don't think I think Bo Katan is capable of that with her jealousy, her anger, her rage, everything that's happened to that. But I don't think Din is willing to kill her. I think Din would do literally everything in his power
to not.
to defeat her without killing her. And I
Yeah,
actually think that would be a much more powerful moment. Is I
agreed.
think he would be willing to lose himself, lose his position, even if he wanted it as a leader of Mandalore rather than killing her.
Yeah,
But we'll see. I
and
mean,
I
as of
think,
right now, that's just my grab on the plot arc.
and at the end of that, I think what would happen would be something like, I think she would realize, like, even like her own words in the season finale of The Mandalorian, where she's like, if we stopped fighting each other and worked together, we could, you know, do that. Hey, there's the chin.
Yeah, sorry. I'm moving one of the questions that was in our chat to here.
Oh, the
So
cheese was one.
yeah, from the social media response one. So
Okay, yeah. But yeah, I don't think. I think at most Bo Katan's gonna be a foil. They might have a fight at most. I just don't think either of them would kill the other if they know they have to work together to save their planet or their homeworld. I
yeah, I
guess.
think Bo Katan will want to kill him, but realize she needs him. I think Din's just not capable of killing like that. He's such a complex character that I think it'd be too easy for him.
Yeah, and I don't think even like I think she can put aside the whole dark saber thing to an extent if she realizes that he put aside the whole Grogu thing. You know,
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
I think all those characters that witness that will see like just like that was a moment for him and kind of like I don't know respect him more for it because as much as like he's very socially awkward as a character, he never says hello even or like how are you doing. He's always like I have been quested to return this child to its kind. Like
Yeah,
that's
it's
how
his
he
intro.
introduces himself.
Like
So
reality TV.
yeah, so I think him sharing that intimate moment of with him and Grogu, that will be a thing. But yeah,
Cool. All right, let's move on to this next question. And anyone in chat, if you want to answer this one, I think it's a pretty fun one. Who would win, Mace Windu or Count Dooku in a 1v1 lightsaber fight?
you want to take this one
Yeah.
first?
So, I mean, this is actually a pretty good question because I see Mace Windu as like the he's probably outside of Darth Vader the strongest duelist in terms of sheer force. That's
Right.
how they always describe him as he hits like a truck
Yeah.
with a lightsaber. Where man, one, I'm a little biased to Count Dooku. He's just gonna run circles around this dude. I mean, I think he'd have it would be a cool fight to watch if it was ever shown. But Dooku, he's just a Jedi Slayer. It's just
Yeah.
what he does. He's
Well, I
amazing.
think I feel like his that style would be more agile, and I think that would outperform Windu as much as like you know. But here's my complication, right? So we see Windu. He basically beats Palpatine, right? The question is, would Dooku ever be able to take down Palpatine? Would he ever actually be able to become, you know, the main Sith?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't even think he thinks of himself really as a Sith because he's such a I don't know. He's such a complex character. That's actually hard for me to ask.
It's
I really want to know
because
why Berg thinks Windu.
Berg wants Windu to be alive.
That's true. I actually,
that
I mean,
that
Windu's
is
a cool character. Yeah, he does have some dark side elements. So I mean, that's the thing, though, is we don't really get to see Windu fight anyone who is both light side, dark side. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And it is pretty much like Revan. That's a good point. You know, being able to use you really have balance. I mean, outside of Qui-Gon, and Qui-Gon's dead at that point. Like,
Yeah.
I
It,
don't know. That's a great question.
yeah. But it's like, I don't know, because we know that Windu could have easily beaten Palpatine if Anakin didn't show up, right? That's the conclusion, and Yoda couldn't beat Palpatine, and Yoda couldn't beat Dooku. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that just goes down to fighting style.
Yeah,
Because, like I said,
I would just give the
Yoda.
edge in that matchup to uh Dooku, but
Yeah, I don't know. That's a hard one.
it is
It
actually
goes
really
back down
hard.
to fight. All right, because we're never gonna get an answer on that one. Let's move on to our social media responses, just because I really want you to read this because I thought it was really funny.
Oh, Willie's response. Yeah, I
Yeah,
said, "What do you think of the prequels?" Basically, I was like, "Just send us your thoughts on Twitter." Willie Thurl Butler says, "Revenge of the Sith is the epitome of Star Wars, and whoever doesn't think that is in denial."
I think Barry would agree with that one because literally this whole stream, he's just been like, episode 3, episode 3, episode 3.
By the
Which,
way, I ranked all my Star Wars media and I posted it on my Facebook, and Willie commented there for context.
yeah, what'd you
And
put? What's your ranking? I'm just interested.
okay, yeah, if we could, this will be our little fun topic. His question was, "Why is Rogue One so high?" Trash emoji. That's what he said.
That's wrong.
I know. I can't tell if he's being sarcastic or not. But the way I ranked it, S tier, I had Empire Strikes Back, Rogue One, and Clone Wars. A tier, Star Wars Rebel, A New Hope, Revenge of the Sith, Mandalorian, Return of the Jedi.
Okay. Okay.
B tier, Solo, The Last Jedi, Force Awakens, Episode 1, and The Rise of Skywalker. C tier, Episode 2. D tier, Star Wars Resistance and the Clone Wars movie.
F tier is definitely the Rise of Skywalker for me. I can't agree with you on that one. We will get into that at a later date.
Yeah.
I think that's a good.
I feel like that was a movie that was forced and it didn't need to be the way it ended. It just was because they didn't know what else to do.
Yeah,
But
I
that's
agree
another
with that.
topic.
We should talk about that on another podcast.
Well, we're gonna do another Good, the Bad, and the Ugly at some point for those movies.
Yeah, that will be a future episode.
But overall,
Charlie, I think that's all we have today.
That it is. In terms of social media stuff, you can follow me at Savage Gaming. Everything is Savage Gaming. Twitter.com/Savage Gaming. Twitch.tv/Savage Gaming. You can follow our Twitter at ORR Show for Outer Rim Radio Show on Twitter. I'm Charlie Savage, that's Ethan Odenthal, and this has been our show. Peace out, guys.